I want to talk about salad. I grew up hating it. Um, because like growing up, I always had just like chopped iceberg lettuce salads, and the only like dressing I ever had around was ranch dressing. And as I've become an adult, I realized that the perception of salad has to do with our perceptions of healthy food in general. In particular, with the rise of diet culture in the US, a particular mindset about what it means to eat healthy has become entrenched, and that is the deprivation mindset. So I've prepared myself a salad here for lunch today. Make sure the camera's getting that. Kind of up close here, it just kind of turns into sludge. And yeah, that's true to life. I like my salads a bit sludgy. Um, but that is just a great byproduct of embracing that at its best, a salad is just 1,000 different things slapped together and adjusted until it tastes just right. This salad, if you're interested, is spring mix from the grocery store at its base. Now, see, most people would stop there and it would taste like grass because you would be eating leaves. So it would taste like leaves. But I take it a bit further. Then I add onion, banana peppers, cucumber. We got some sweet potato in here. Chickpeas, absolutely essential. You got to get like some kind of protein in there. Uh, Otherwise, again, you are going to be just eating leaves and it is not going to be filling, and you're going to hate yourself and you're going to be grouchy. And then, we've added some vegan yogurt here, some salt and pepper, some apple cider vinegar if you need a bit more acid taste. You could do lemon or lime, but I like to add, apple cider vinegar or another similar vinegar. And then some olive oil, avocado, get some creaminess in there. And then once you have done that, where did I put it? You're going to take a big bowl. You're going to put all that in there. And then you're just going to shake it violently. Make sure the lid is on there tight. You don't need to bother with tossing a salad the old-fashioned way. Because that works when you've got leaves and one other thing. When you've got, a true sludgy salad, that just doesn't really work. So you want to like get a nice tight lid on here and then just shake it violently to very thoroughly incorporate all of those ingredients. And the end result will be something beautiful. Now, is it going to be 200 calories? No, it will probably be more. But if we've forsaken the deprivation mindset, then that's going to be okay. So I want to talk about why I hate the deprivation mindset so much. And it's just because it deprives you. And life is not about deprivation. Life is about living. And I don't know anyone who would honestly define their concept of living as depriving themselves of things. And this is very apparent in our attitudes about food, but it really extends to just about anything else in life. And we've come to villainize it as gluttony or hedonism or any negatively charged words that, are kind of meant to be applied to extremes, but kind of just are used to mean any kind of indulgence. Um, it's okay to indulge yourself. But I really think that this mindset, in the modern sense, is a direct result of capitalism. And yes, I am relating dry leaves and bad salads to capitalism because capitalism is all about creating these artificial scarcities, and it has so conditioned us into defining our lives based on absence and deprivation. It's always, oh, I got to get more money, got to get a bigger truck because I currently do not have those things. It's about that deprivation. And subsequently, there is a calculus of deprivation wherein you say, if I deprive myself of X and Y for so many months and really tighten up, then I will no longer have to deprive myself of Z because I have determined that Z, for whatever reason, is worth more than indulging myself in X and Y. That applies to like pretty much any luxury. Anything that we consider luxury that in reality kind of amounts to creature comforts. There is no benefit within capitalism. There is no benefit to depriving yourself of these things other than how it is defined, like relative to something else. And we see this all the time. You know, it's just that food, the ways we deprive ourselves when it comes to food, is the most blatant example of this. And we take it to the absolute extremes when it comes to food, to the point that you will have people eating dry leaves and unseasoned chicken breast because they are convinced that if they deprive themselves of fats and oils or seasonings, then they will have the perfect body, have the perfect soul, um, and they won't be a creep anymore. But in reality, if you have your fitness goals, you can reach reasonable fitness goals without depriving yourself. Like, yeah, maybe having like the Hollywood body only comes with deprivation, but again, that gets into a discussion of, is that the sort of thing that we want to be striving towards? Because it's completely unrealistic, especially like when they talk about how they like dehydrate themselves and all this bullshit to like get the extra little bits of definition on their arms and their abs. That's just purely aesthetics at that point. You're depriving yourself for what? You're depriving yourself just for that subjective aesthetic edge. It's not like depriving yourself of food is helping you build muscle, because you need food, you need fuel to build muscle, to exercise. So there really is like no practical reason for these deprivations either, because what it comes down to is just, oh, I got to get my body fat percentage lower by this 1 percentage point. And ultimately, like, that's all these deprivations amount to, is these obsessions with metrics that in actuality don't have any real bearing on our quality of life, beyond fixations and fascinations and reading into what we have been conditioned by society to think is worthwhile, worth pursuing, worth hating ourselves for, worth depriving ourselves for. So, why do we do that then? Because oftentimes those things are rewarded, in the social sense or in the financial sense, you know, like if you become an influencer, or if you want, or if you're like striving towards that external validation of your appearance, because you want people to say like, oh, wow, you've lost so much weight or whatever, you know. Ultimately, it's also hollow, because after everyone has told you how great you look, what do you have? I mean, yeah, you still have your body where you want it, but at that point, what is it doing for you, you know, internally? So we have, you know, in adopting the deprivation mindset, uh, we have pushed down any sense of what we need internally, what our mind needs, what our body needs, and we have conflated that with external validation, and we've become convinced that external validations are going to push us and propel us forward more than actually fulfilling our own internal needs ever could. That's why diets don't work, you know, like that's why when people adhere to these rigid diets, it's not like a meaningful lifestyle change. All it's doing is furthering this negative adversarial dynamic between oneself and food. You know, when you're like, oh, I'm going to go on keto, or I'm going to do the Atkins diet or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Thankfully, I haven't heard a new like trendy diet crop up in some time. Like, you're not doing anything to help yourself in the long run, because you're just creating you're just creating a worse relationship between you and food and exercise, you know, because your body, the way that you should look at your body is, what is my body as the container for my mind going to do to allow me to fulfill uh, a meaningful life or an enriching life, or pursue activities that I actually want to pursue? And in the deprivation mindset, that relationship becomes flipped. And it's, what can my mind do for my body? You know, how can I trick myself, trick my mind into doing these things that I hate, so that my body will be in this perfect shape that is defined by, you know, nebulous cultural forces or nebulous market forces that want to peddle these lifestyles on us. And I've been there. You know, I have suffered from an eating disorder before, where I deprived myself and was doing extreme calorie deficits in the pursuit of losing weight, even past the point where I was like comfortable with my body. You know, it was like I got to a point where I was like, man, my body is feeling better. I am feeling, you know, healthier. And then I just kept going. I kept doing the calorie deprivation, because at that point, my BMI was still saying that I was overweight. Even though, like, I felt healthier and better and fitter, my body still said, oh, you are 6'2" and 190 pounds. You're still overweight. And again, it's just these numbers, these metrics that have no bearing on our actual quality of life, or, you know, they're just, they're meant to be these objective readings, but in reality, they just wind up serving these subjective external influences that would have us then internalize those numbers and represent, you know, this is how many points away from being good or worthy you are, you know. And so I kept pursuing that, and I was still depriving myself. Um, And it was to the point where I was just eating like cans of soup because it was easy to like track the calories and macros off of a discrete standardized unit of food like that. Um, and it made my life so much worse because it got to a point where all my body fuel was just going to sustaining me and carrying me forward. And at that point, there's nothing left in the tank for your body or your mind to feel good. I was grouchy. I was angry. It made me lash out at people around me. And then, of course, that only served to reinforce the negative thought patterns because when you're in a negative headspace, any negative patterns are pretty easy to just keep perpetuating. Um, and eventually, I realized what was going on, and I was just like, man, I've had enough of this. And then that was when I started working towards building an actual positive relationship with food, and I began to look at food as not this thing that I need to optimize the exact amount that I'm eating so that my body is not being, poisoned in what way that has been socially defined. I started viewing food as this tool for physical nourishment as well as mental nourishment. Because food, I love food. I always have, always will. I love food. I love eating good food. I love making good food. I have come to really enjoy cooking for myself and my partner. And in pursuing those activities and viewing food as a source of nourishment and enrichment, uh, it has become more than just fuel. It becomes, something that's actually emotionally meaningful to myself. And that is what you are really depriving yourself of when you go into the deprivation mindset, when you buy into this idea that you have to limit yourself. You're responding to what society is telling you rather than responding to what your body and mind are telling you. Because you can look at all the like dietary recommendations, like, oh, 2,000 calories a day, this many grams of protein, this many milligrams of that or whatever. But, beyond reasonable levels, of course, your body, just listen to your body, do what feels right for you. The practice of intuitive eating is a great basis for constructing a positive relationship with food. So, as a result of that, I couldn't tell you how many calories are in this salad. I couldn't tell you the macros of this salad because I'm operating uh, purely on vibes with food these days. I know the building blocks. I know these foods have protein, these foods have these micronutrients, things like that. But I don't need to count them. I just need to know, okay, these are the components of a balanced meal that is going to nourish my body and nourish my mind because it tastes good. So then rather than wasting all that time tracking exactly how much I'm depriving myself, I then just think about, oh, salt, fat, acid, heat. I've never actually seen that documentary, but it is a great sort of little four words to keep in mind when you're cooking if you have if you're trying to balance flavors. So, now rather than eating a sludgy can of soup that I just microwaved real quick because I know exactly how many calories it has, how many grams of protein it has. Instead, I'm eating a sludgy, you know, mushy looking salad because I just threw a bunch of ingredients together that I knew tasted good, and I knew had the various, amounts of nutrients that would help my body, So I would definitely recommend taking an active approach in your relationship with food. And when you think about food and how much you're eating or what you're eating or whatever, catch yourself when you think things that are just serving a deprivation mindset, when you catch yourself saying negative things like, oh my God, like, how could I eat so much? Things like that. It's like, don't focus on that. Don't focus on, oh my God, I'm going to gain so much weight. Focus on, ooh, my stomach hurts because I ate too much. Because that's like an objective thing that has a bearing on your immediate quality of life. A tummy ache sucks. And I think not eating a bunch, not eating a bunch in excess because it would make your stomach hurt is much better than not eating this amount of food because you're going to go over your macros or you're going to go over your calorie deficit or things like that. So like, just when you're framing your internal monologue around food, try to reframe those justifications from deprivation to maximizing the amount of joy or emotional and physical nourishment that the food is going to provide you, you know? So that's how you go from eating dry lettuce to eating a lovely little combination of all these great flavors. Is you stop thinking about it as a tool for reaching just the right balance, and you go to thinking about it as this thing that is going to feel good for your body and for your mind and is going to make your day better, because ultimately that's why we have food. And that's why, throughout human history, food has been a fundamental cornerstone of culture. Throughout human history, our relationship with food has not revolved around, I need to eat this amount per day. It's revolved around, we're going to throw these things in with this thing because it's going to taste really good. That's why we have so many wonderful different cuisines around the world that we can enjoy, is because throughout human history, we have had that relationship with food. It has always been something we need and something that fuels us, but at the same time, it has also always been a source of enjoyment, a source of social connection, and just a fun activity, whether it be cooking or eating, because we can share it with people and it's something that feels good to do. So I'm going to finish my salad. I hope you enjoy the rest of your lunch, and I hope that you continue to enjoy all the meals that you make for yourself or a loved one, share with friends or loved ones, and think about the good that your meals are doing for you. And try to get away from that mindset of food as this snake tempting you in the Garden of Eden, because, well, food tastes good.